We shouldn't have bought that house. I knew it the second I stepped inside, but at the time, I called it charm. That's how you justify something your gut tells you not to do, by giving it a prettier name. It was a 3-story Dutch colonial sitting quiet and proud on 112 Ocean Avenue in Amityville. White trim, steep roof, those 2 little attic windows on the top floor that looked like eyes watching the street. I thought it gave the house personality. Kathy called it storybook. The kids were just excited to have a yard. Even the dog Harry was wagging his tail like this was home. But homes don't watch you. Not like this. We bought it in December, a week before Christmas. $80,000. Practically a steal. The agent told us the price was adjusted for history. She said it like we should know what that meant. We didn't ask. Mostly because we didn't want the answer. From the first night, things were off. The house was warm, but some rooms felt like the middle of winter. I'd walk through the hallway and feel this sudden drop in temperature, like passing through something invisible. Kathy said I was just sensitive to drafts, but there were no drafts. Harry started scratching at the basement door that night, not once or twice, constantly. It was a heavy door that led down to the storage space under the stairs, and it hadn't even crossed our minds until he planted himself there, growling low like something was behind it. I opened it. Empty space, cement floor, paint cans, a dusty furnace. But the second I opened it, I felt it too, like I'd walked into a vacuum. He didn't stop scratching. That same night, I woke up drenched in sweat. The digital clock on the nightstand read 3:15 a.m. I sat up and looked around. The bedroom was still. Kathy asleep next to me. But then I heard it. Creaking, like floorboards shifting under slow footsteps. Not above us, not beside us. Right over our heads. The attic. I told myself it was nothing. Old house. Settling wood. I was lying to myself, but I needed sleep. I forced my eyes shut and waited for the morning. Kathy made pancakes. The kids were playing. Sunlight came through the kitchen windows like nothing was wrong. But I noticed it again. Harry, staring at the basement door. This time, he didn't growl. He just whined, low, constant, like he knew something we didn't. And maybe he did. That was day one. We had no idea what was coming. It didn't take long before the house started pushing back. At first, it was just the cold. I'd walk from the kitchen to the hallway, and suddenly, I'd be shivering. The thermostat stayed steady at 72, but some corners of the house felt like an icebox. Kathy noticed it too. She joked that we should name the cold spots like pets. But there was no humor in her eyes. She knew something was wrong. One night, Kathy jolted awake. Said she smelled something. Perfume. Strong and sweet. She sat up, sniffed the air like she was trying to remember something. Lilacs, she whispered. But we didn't keep flowers in the bedroom. No candles. Nothing that could have made that smell. It vanished as quickly as it came. Later that week, I started noticing the stains. I flushed the toilet one morning and saw thick black residue circling the bowl. I cleaned it. Came back an hour later. Same stain. Every toilet in the house had the same greasy black film around the water line. No matter how much we scrubbed, it came back. Sometimes thicker. Sometimes with a smell I still can't describe. Like rust and rot blended into something unnatural. I tried not to say anything around the kids. But they noticed things too. They avoided the upstairs hallway. Even little Missy, who never stopped running around, wouldn't go near it unless Kathy or I was holding her hand. She said the hallway made her feel heavy, like something was pressing down on her shoulders. Then came the night the house breathed. It was around 2:30 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I went downstairs to check on the thermostat. As I passed the living room, I saw the wallpaper on the far wall moving, slowly rising, then collapsing like lungs pulling in air. I froze. My breath caught in my chest. I blinked, and the wall was still again. Normal. Solid. Not alive. I didn't tell Kathy. I couldn't. I didn't want her to think I was losing it. I didn't want to believe I was losing it. The next day, Missy was in her room talking to herself. Kathy peeked in and asked who she was playing with. Missy looked up and said cheerfully, "Jody." "Is Jody your stuffed animal?" Kathy asked. Missy shook her head. "She's the pig, with red eyes." Kathy laughed, but the sound was strained. "That's an interesting friend." Missy just smiled. "Jody says she doesn't like loud voices. She watches me from the window when it's dark." That night, I walked past Missy's room and glanced in. She was asleep. But her window? It was slightly open, and for just a second, I could have sworn I saw something round and pale vanish into the shadows outside. Some houses creak, some groan in the wind. Ours? Ours was breathing, and it was only just beginning to wake up. It started with a drip. Not from a faucet, not from the roof, from the wall. At the top of the stairs, where the hallway meets the bedrooms, I noticed a thick green line running down the wallpaper. I touched it. Slippery, gelatinous, cold, like mucus pulled from a freezer. I wiped it away with a paper towel, tossed it, and chalked it up to old plumbing or a busted pipe behind the wall. But when I came back 20 minutes later, it was there again, twice as much. And this time, it was moving. That same morning, I opened the sewing room door and nearly dropped the laundry basket. The windows were coated in black, not with curtains or dust, but flies, hundreds of them, buzzing in frenzied loops across the ceiling, smashing into glass, crawling across the floor, in December, in the dead of winter. I slammed the door shut. Kathy found me in the living room, shaking. I told her what I saw. She walked up, opened the same door, and the room was empty. Not a single fly, not one. We didn't talk about it. We stopped talking about a lot of things. That night, while Kathy was hanging clothes in the bedroom closet, she screamed. I ran in and found her slumped on the floor, her back pressed against the closet door like something had pushed her hard. She swore something shoved her, grabbed her by the shoulders and hurled her backward. There were red marks on her arms. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. I was chopping wood in the yard every morning and every night. I couldn't stop. Something about the sound of the axe hitting the log. It cleared the noise in my head. It gave me something to do while I waited for the house to do whatever it was going to do next. I told Kathy it was just stress, that I was clearing my head. But I was doing it in the dark, barefoot, sometimes shirtless in the snow, my hands blistered and bloody. I didn't feel the cold anymore. One night, I was in the kitchen staring out the back window when I heard it. A voice, not outside, not from the kids' rooms, from inside the walls. It whispered my name, just once. But it wasn't Kathy. It wasn't anyone in the house. It was low, gravelly, and closer than it should have been. That same night, I woke up with a burning sensation across my chest. I sat up and lifted my shirt. 3 deep scratches, red and raised like they'd just been made. Parallel, clean, precise. I hadn't been dreaming. Kathy was still asleep, her back to me. I reached out to touch her shoulder and froze. The room was cold, colder than anything I'd felt outside. I could see my breath fogging in the air. Then something tapped the window behind me. 3 taps, one after the other. I turned around slowly. Nothing was there. The next morning, the green slime had spread. Down the stairs, along the hallway, across the doorknobs. The house was bleeding something I couldn't explain. Something it wanted us to touch, to feel. We hadn't even made it halfway through the month, and already I didn't recognize the man in the mirror anymore. Missy hadn't been sleeping in her bed. We found her curled up on the hallway floor one night, whispering into the dark. Her voice was soft, careful, like she didn't want to be overheard. Kathy scooped her up and brought her to our room. We asked her why she wasn't in bed. She rubbed her eyes. "Jody said I'd be safer here." "Jody?" Kathy asked gently. Missy nodded. "She watches me from the window. She said something's coming up the stairs tonight." I wanted to dismiss it. I really did. But there was a flicker of something in her eyes. Too serious for a child who's supposed to be playing make-believe. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. I found myself drawn to Missy's room, unsure of what I was looking for. Proof, maybe. I stood in the doorway, listening to the silence. Then I walked to her window. I don't know what I expected, but I didn't expect the red eyes. Two glowing orbs stared back at me from just beyond the tree line, unmoving, like they were studying me. And they weren't headlights. They weren't reflections. They were alive, watching. I blinked, and they were gone. I ran outside with a flashlight, feet crunching on the snow. No animals, no birds, just silence and cold. But as I turned toward the side yard, I saw them. Tiny prints in the snow. Not human, not dog, hoof-like, and only going one way. They started near the window, but they didn't lead anywhere. No return trail, just tracks that appeared from nothing and stopped mid-yard, like something had lifted off the ground. I didn't sleep at all. The next day, Missy sat at the kitchen table humming to herself. Kathy asked her about her friend again. "She's not bad," Missy said. "She just doesn't like it when people pretend she's not real." That night, I woke to the bed shaking. I thought it was a dream, until Kathy lifted from the mattress. Not jolted, not jumped, lifted. Her back arched, arms rigid at her sides, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling but not seeing it. Her lips trembled like she was trying to scream, but no sound came out. I tried to grab her hand, to pull her down, but she hovered, cold and stiff for what felt like hours. Then she dropped, gasping, shaking, eyes rolled back. She didn't remember any of it. We were both up after that, pacing the house. Every light was on. Every door was locked. I checked each window twice. At around 4 a.m., I sat on the stairs to breathe. Just one breath. Just a break. Then I heard the front door slam shut. I bolted to it, locked, still latched. Everyone else was asleep. I told myself it could have been a draft, but the floor near the door was wet, like someone had walked in from the snow and didn't wipe their feet. By now, I'd stopped asking what was real and what wasn't. I wasn't trying to escape the house anymore. I was trying to survive it. The basement was colder than ever. I'd gone down to fix a shelf that had collapsed under the weight of some storage boxes. The air felt heavier than usual. My breath came out in short puffs, even though the heat upstairs was working fine. Harry followed me halfway down the stairs, then stopped. He growled low in his throat and backed up, refusing to take another step. I called him. He wouldn't budge. That should have been my first warning. I knelt beside the busted shelf and began clearing out the mess. Cans of paint, rusted tools, and old Christmas decorations we hadn't even unpacked yet. As I pulled the shelf away from the wall, I noticed something strange, an edge of paint that didn't match the rest of the wall. A faint outline, like a doorway had been sealed up and then hidden behind plywood. I ran my hand along the wood. It sounded hollow. There was a gap, just wide enough to pry at. I fetched a crowbar from the workbench and wedged it into the seam. With a few hard pulls, the board snapped back, and a cloud of stale air hit me in the face. Behind the false wall was a small room, no more than 6 feet wide. The walls were painted a deep, angry red. No shelves, no furniture, just an empty space, and silence. A silence so complete it made my ears ring. It was the kind of silence that doesn't belong in a house. No creaks, no hum of pipes. It was like the room swallowed sound entirely, like it wasn't part of our home, or this world. I didn't step inside. I couldn't. I felt watched. Not by something I could see, but by something beneath seeing, something old, waiting. That night, I couldn't sleep. The red room burned in my mind. I closed my eyes and saw it. I heard it. And then I dreamed. In the dream, I was in our bedroom, lying in bed. But I couldn't move. I was awake, but paralyzed. At the foot of the bed stood a man, tall, lean, wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. He held a rifle in both hands. His eyes were vacant, hollow, like he wasn't really there. just a memory of someone who had once been human. He raised the rifle slowly, aiming it at my chest. I couldn't scream, couldn't even blink. Then I woke up, gasping for air. Beside me, Kathy was whimpering in her sleep. Her arms were twisted above her head like someone had pinned them there. I reached over to wake her, and that's when I saw the bruises, faint, finger-shaped, around her wrists and upper arms. When she opened her eyes, she had no memory of the dream, but her hands shook for the rest of the morning. Harry wouldn't come out of the laundry room. He refused food. His fur stood up in patches along his back whenever we so much as walked near the basement door. I wanted to seal the red room back up, but something in me said it wouldn't matter. Whatever it was, whatever we had uncovered, it already knew we were there. And now, it wasn't hiding anymore. We stopped pretending it was all in our heads. By the 4th week, the house had stripped us down. No warmth, no laughter, just hollow routines and sleepless nights. We moved like ghosts, avoiding eye contact, barely speaking. The kids clung to Kathy like shadows. Harry refused to leave the laundry room. I couldn't tell what day it was anymore. I only knew when it was 3:15 a.m., because that's when everything came alive. One night, I woke up standing over the boys' bed. I had no memory of walking there. I had no reason to be there. But I was staring down at them. My fists clenched so tight my fingernails had cut into my palms. My breath came out in short gasps. Kathy found me and pulled me away. Her eyes were wide, afraid. She didn't say it, but I could feel it. She thought I was becoming someone else. So did I. The house shook that night. Not a creak, not a rattle. It shook. The windows buzzed like they were about to shatter. Doors opened and slammed shut on their own. We heard footsteps racing across the ceiling, then silence. And then it would start again. The lights flickered, blinked out completely, then came back like nothing happened. The furniture vibrated. Kathy screamed when the mirror in the hallway cracked straight down the middle. No impact, no pressure, just split on its own. I ran upstairs, thinking Missy was in danger, and found her sitting calmly in her room, talking to Jody. She wasn't crying, she wasn't afraid, she was smiling. "She says we can't leave," Missy whispered. "She says we're part of the house now." I scooped her up. She screamed like I was hurting her, kicked, clawed at my shirt. Kathy had to take her from my arms. She calmed down in seconds, hugged Kathy and whispered, "Don't make Jody angry again." That was it. That was the moment I knew we couldn't last another night. I told Kathy we were leaving. No discussion, no packing. We were going to take the kids and go. Right then, no matter the storm outside. She didn't argue. We grabbed what we could, coats, blankets, a bag of clothes, left the rest behind. The house creaked behind us as if it knew, as if it watched. The second we stepped onto the porch, the wind howled like something screaming from the walls. As we drove away, headlights cutting through the storm, Missy turned to look back at the house. She smiled. "She's still watching us," she said, "from the window." I didn't turn to look. I didn't want to know if it was true. I just pressed the gas harder and prayed the tires didn't slide off the road. We never slept in that house again. But the house? It wasn't finished with us. I told myself I wouldn't go back. But a few weeks after we left, I had no choice. We'd left behind boxes of documents, important ones. Deeds, tax papers, birth certificates. It was a stupid oversight, and I tried to ignore it. But the longer I waited, the more it felt like the house was calling me back. So I returned, alone. The street looked the same. Quiet, deceptively peaceful. A blanket of snow coated the front yard. The house stood just as we left it, tall, white, watching. I didn't stay long on the porch. Just enough time to fumble with the keys and unlock the door. The knob was ice cold. The moment I stepped inside, the warmth from my body seemed to vanish. The house swallowed it. It was silent inside, but not a peaceful silence. It was the kind of silence that waits. Dust had already begun to settle. Our coats still hung by the stairs. Toys were scattered in the corner. The dining table was set, untouched from the night we fled. Everything felt frozen, like the house had captured that final moment and preserved it. Nothing out of place, except the air. It was thick, wet, like breathing through a soaked rag. I moved quickly. I didn't want to look around. I knew where the papers were, downstairs, in the basement file cabinet. The light switch at the top of the stairs didn't work. Of course it didn't. I pulled out my flashlight. Each step creaked louder than I remembered. The beam of light danced against the concrete floor. The air down there was colder than the rest of the house. My breath came out in puffs, but there was no sound. Even my footsteps felt muted. The cabinet was there, against the far wall. I reached it, pulled the drawer open, and then I heard it. Click. Behind me. Not a door. A whisper. A breath. I spun around. The flashlight flickered, and then it happened. Flashes. Not in my eyes, not in my mind, in the air. Like the basement itself was remembering. I saw them, all 6 of them, lying in their beds, motionless. Blankets pulled neatly to their chests, eyes open. Then another flash, a figure moving through the house with a rifle, steady, quiet, mechanical, flash, one shot, another, one by one, no screams, no running, just stillness, obedience, like the house wanted it that way. I stumbled back, crashing into the shelf. The flashlight clattered to the floor and rolled, casting long shadows on the walls. And then the red room door creaked open. I didn't stay to see more. I ran. I didn't grab the papers, didn't shut the door behind me. I ran until I hit the street and kept running until the house was out of view. I didn't stop until I reached the car, and even then, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. When I got home, Kathy didn't ask what I saw. She didn't need to. Somehow she already knew. The house hadn't been haunted by strangers, not spirits, not shadows. It had been burned, branded by what happened inside. 6 people died in that house, all in one night, all in their sleep. And the house, it remembered. Not just the blood, but the stillness, the way the air tasted that night, the weight of silence before each shot. It wasn't just haunted, it was cursed by memory, a living, breathing echo. And we were just another page in its story. I never went back. But sometimes, at 3:15 in the morning, I still wake up cold. Not because I'm afraid it followed me, but because I'm afraid it never needed to. Some houses don't forget, and some don't forgive. Don't